It is time for an extra coolest conversations. A little Steven's Underground Garage. My guest is a legendary Dion DiMucci, singer, songwriter whose career dates back to the first generation of rock and rollers. More recently, he's released several albums since 2020, including Blues with Friends, Stomping Grounds, and Girlfriends, all of which draw on the blues. Well, his latest, 2025's The Rock and Roll Philosopher, is a companion to his book of the same name, covers his rise to fame, struggles with addiction, long marriage, musical influences, got reflections on art, faith, the evolution of rock and roll. It's got tributes in there as well to him, written up from the likes of Stevie Van Zandt, Eric Clapton, and others. The album contains new songs, re recordings of older ones, and is home to this week's coolest song in the world and a heartbeat of time. Dion, welcome back to the Underground Garage.
It's a joy to be with you. Great to be here.
Oh
Thank
man,
you.
thank you. I really want to go out to dinner or lunch with you sometime because in the book, you and co-author Adam Jablin have all these great conversations, share all these wonderful anecdotes when you're breaking bread. So what is it about that ritual that's conducive to sharing and
Yeah,
reflecting and storytelling?
I don't know. It's an Italian Jewish thing. Adam, Adam's been in recovery for like 30 years, and I've been in recovery 58 years come
Mm.
April. And uh, we go out and we tell each other these stories. We reflect on life events, and it always comes out with a life lesson. To take us to a higher reality, or to you learn things in situations. So one day I'm having lunch with Adam, and I'm telling him this story. He says, Dion, I wish my family, my friends were here. He said, these stories are so unbelievable. I mean, everything from Sam Cooke and Jackie Wilson, and you knew Buddy Holly, and and you're like a first generation rock and roller, and these stories about Springsteen at the Phil Spector sessions, and we should document these things. Do a book called Conversations. So we started documenting these conversations, and 5 years later, we had a book. And it's a lot of fun to read. They're vignettes. It doesn't read like Gone with the Wind. They're just short
Oh,
stories. So when we finished, we got really inspired to do an audio book. So when we were doing the audio, see, the book has like maybe 160 pictures per photo.
right. Oh, wait, you know
The,
what?
au-
I mean, here, I've got the book with me. Why don't I
the
hold that up so we can see? And you see, there we are.
Yeah, it's
Rock
like
and roll,
a
rock and
small
roll
coffee table
philosopher.
book.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
So,
And it's got
you
all these
got like,
pictures. You got it?
like for instance, gee, I got a book here. Let me see something. Well, you got like pictures of, I don't know, God, if I could get one of them. I'm flipping through it. I wanted to, so I don't know. The pictures, photos could take you on a trip. They can take you like, here's a picture of Bruce and I way back. I
Yeah,
don't,
yeah, yeah.
and a group that when we were playing on the shore, Jersey Shore. So there's stories, and the thing is that the book has photos. The audio book has maybe 30 to, I forget the number of songs that are in it, that
Okay.
some of the stories, we put songs under the stories. We introduce some of the stories with songs. So it became, so we took these songs and did a companion album to the book, and it has songs from a lot of different eras. Like
Right.
I have like Take It Back with Joe Bonamassa, some of the blues albums I did during COVID. Mark Knopfler's on Dancing Girl, and Eric Clapton is on If You Want to Rock and Roll. And I did a new song called New York Minute, and
Yeah.
I'm Your Gangster of Love is a new song. And Crying Shame I did with Sonny Landreth. And, there's just all kinds of, uh, I did a Tom Waits song called Serenade, which I
Well, I
love.
was going to ask you about. Well, we'll get to that in a bit. I really still want to focus a little bit on the book because my takeaway from it is that the core of your rock and roll philosophy really rests on your faith in God, and among those, well, to me, among the main tenets that you're expressing is, forgiveness, taking full responsibility for one's actions, continuing to sort of work on yourself. And there's more to it, and there's also nuances with all of that. But is that a starting point, at least, to the core of your philosophy, your rock and roll philosophy?
Yeah, Manfred, you know what? Like, I got sober when I was 28 years old, and I had to get some tools to live because I had a gift for writing songs and music. It was, I mean, this stuff just used to overwhelm me. It was just a gift, and thank God for it. But life is the art, and you can die with this gift if you don't know how to live. So I
Mhm.
had to learn how to live. So I started surrounding myself with some people who I really like, just inspired me the way they ran their lives, and I started to see that your philosophy is perfectly designed to produce the result you're getting in life, and
Mhm.
and philosophy, a philosopher loves is a lover of wisdom. And a philosopher is somebody who makes good distinctions. If you're making bad distinctions, it's bad philosophy. So, so I started learning uh, just how to run my life to get some peace because, you know, I was like at the top of my profession in 1963. I was the first rock and roll artist signed to Columbia Records, which is now Sony. But right before Dylan came up, and I mean, things were going so well. But personally, in my personal life, man, it was a disaster. I was just, I
And that
just,
all comes to a head like in '68, right? That was the big,
yeah,
you were going to kind of force
absolutely.
yourself. And
Yeah,
that,
what happened to me is I used to run the streets with Frankie Lyman. You know,
yeah,
we both
continue.
come from close neighborhoods. And we were running the streets, taking drugs, and doing all this stuff. And in 68, February of 68, he died of an overdose. And it just hurt me and rattled me and filled me with such concern or fear. I don't even know how to explain it, but I just knew something's wrong. I have to stop. I can't keep doing this.
And you were
So
married, you and Susan were married at that time already, right?
yeah, I was married. I was married about 5 years. I got married in 63. And yeah, so,
And I bring that
so
up because what is there was something about, to, you give in the book, you give several steps that she was like applying and, sort of like bringing this to your attention and then sort of walking, sort of withdrawing, sort of to get you to see what was going on and to put you on a path to try and break the cycle. Is that
well,
fair to say?
yeah, I love this girl. She's like my childhood sweetheart. We're still married today. It's like 63 years. She, she, one day, I could get into it in detail, but one day she told me, she said, listen, Dion, I'd go to hell for you and back. But if you keep choosing to use this crap and choose to drink the way you could go to hell for yourself. And she turned around and walked away. And it wasn't even what she said. It was it was how she said it.
Yeah.
that really bothered me. It really, she said it with like scorn or just a sound and a voice, which I didn't think she was capable of talking like that. The attitude, it just hurt me, and I
Mm.
and motivated me to seek help. And in April 1st, 1968, maybe a month after, Frankie Lyman died,
Yeah. Yeah.
I got help, and I've been clean and sober ever since.
Let's talk for a second about because we brought up your wife Susan and Runaround Sue. I thought that was a great anecdote in the book. Can you explain that? The genesis of the song?
Yeah, Susan moved into the Bronx from Vermont when I was 15, 16, okay?
Yeah.
And no, who moves to the Bronx, Manfred? You're either born there or you don't move. You move out of the Bronx. You don't
Is she
move
from
in.
Vermont? Is that right? Something about her being from Vermont.
Yeah, well, she lived in Randolph, a real small town.
Yeah.
And she moves into the Bronx, and to me, she was totally exotic, red hair, farm girl, like,
Wow.
I just fell for her. And, in my neighborhood at that age, like when you told the guys, I was in this gang called the Fordham Baldies. When I
Hmm.
told them, hey, I saw her first. That's my girl, you know. So it was understood, I got dibs on this girl. Everybody else, you know, keep your eyes and hands off of this girl. So, we were kids. I didn't know how to communicate. And, I started, I took it to the Paradise movies what was it? The Concourse in the Bronx,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
It's like the Champs-Élysées of the Bronx. And we went to the Paradise, and, that was it. And that week, we had a feast on 187th Street, which Mount Carmel Church was holding, every year. It was like St. Gennaro's or something, and they had this feast in the street, and she was talking to somebody. And the guys in my gang, they came up to me, they said, Dion, who's your girl talking to? She's talking to that guy over there. And they like got on me. They started ragging on me a little. You let your girl talk to this guy. That guy's handsome. That guy's a good looking guy. She's talking to that guy. What was she talking to him for? So when she came over, I said, why are you talking to that guy? And she said, he asked me for directions to the Bronx Zoo. So I said, why are you talking to him? I didn't know how to handle it. So I
Yeah.
wrote a song. I wrote Runaround Sue. I got, and I put it in a drawer somewhere. I left it alone for like a while.
Yeah.
But then later on, when I got a contract, I didn't have a contract at the time. A couple of years later, I have a contract. I Wonder Why, Teenager in Love, and
Uh,
Where, When, and then the Belmonts and I split up because they wanted to sing all this smooth music. And I said, no, that's not for me.
yeah.
And Susan said, you should do that song that you played for me. I
Oh,
said,
so you had played her the song.
yeah, I played. Then I did it at I had a laugh over it and I played
Yeah.
it for her. And I said, I can't release that. She said, no, you got to release that. That's a great song. She said, that's a great song. Release it. So I did it, and uh, I'm glad she told me to release it.
There's what's cool too, you have a lot of vignettes in the book, anecdotes. Right now, there's a lot of divisiveness in the country, and there are other times in the country we've suffered periods like this. But in the book, you've got some great stuff there talking about time that you spent with Sam Cooke, and you mentioned Cooke a couple minutes ago, along with Jackie Wilson. But can you tell us about your time that you got to share with Sam Cooke and how that relates to your overall philosophy?
Well, his father was a preacher, and he used to try to live out I guess, a life of brotherly love.
Yeah.
I mean, he was trying to change the world through his art, through his music, uh, but most of all through brotherhood, the way he lived. And I was on a tour with him and Little Willie John and uh, oh God, I forget what's his name. I'll think of it in a minute.
Yeah.
But Bobby Blue Bland, how can I forget Bobby Blue Bland? This guy was like the best. I mean, my wife just loved watching him, just loved his set. But Sam Cooke, during that tour, people would say things to him, especially when we got to Memphis. And I was from the Bronx. Like I said, I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't get it. I was like, hey, Sam, why don't you wrap that guy, give this guy one shot right upside his head? I'm like, what are you doing? Why you let somebody talk to you like that? And he said, Dion, look, that guy is peculiar. When you're trying to get over on people the way he is, that's peculiar. Trying to think he's better than me because of his skin or something. So I would watch him deal with people on that tour, and it amazed me. And I didn't know where he was coming from. Then, after about 3 weeks, I figured it out that he was the brightest guy in the room. And the way he responded was incredible. He used to kind of flip things on people. How could I say it? It's like Bishop Tutu, who is black. He was walking through the streets of India, the back roads, and they had this over the mud. They had this slatted wood, to walk on to keep your feet dry because there was mud all over the streets. And he was negotiating this path one day, and this big white guy comes walking towards him, and he stands in front of him and he says, I don't make room for gorillas. And Bishop Tutu stepped off the slats, the boards, and gestured broadly and said, I do. And he let the guy go. So it's like holding up a mirror to such ignorance, or like
Mm.
Mother Teresa. She grabs this kid who's starving and she brings him into the bakery and she says to the bakery owner, do you have anything for this young lad? And the bakery owner spits in her face and she goes, well, thank you for that for me, but do you have anything for him to eat?
Mm.
you know, and that's the way he would like respond to things. He would like hold up a mirror to such stupidity. Uh, so I learned a lot. And actually, when I saw Green Book, I knew I had another song in the back of the drawer somewhere. It was called Here in America. It was a song about Sam Cooke, and I recorded it. You could Google it, Manfred. It I put it on an album called Blues with Friends, and I
Yeah.
did it with Paul Simon, and Paul got it that it wasn't a song about segregation or integration or bias or it was a song about brotherly love. So because Sam Cooke used to take care of me in the South. I went into the black section with him one day, one night, what Susan and I did. She was on the tour with us,
Yeah.
and we went into this section because James Brown and the Flames were playing a small club. He wasn't popular at the time, and Sam Cooke said, "You got to see this guy. He's really good." And he took us to this club, and some people, some of his the people in that section started getting on Susan and I our case. They were like, who are these Ophase you're with, and Sam were like, they're with me, leave them, but he took care of us. It was like
Yeah.
the opposite of Green Book.
Wow. So talking about Sam Cooke, then you've got a section in the book where you list a whole bunch of different artists and sort of what you learn from each of them. And I wanted to ask about two of them because I'm not that familiar with them. One is Nino Tempo, who I has a sister like April Stevens, and I know he worked with her. And I think, what do you say? For about him, you said you learned to overcome the fear of people. Is that it? What did you learn from Nino Tempo, and who exactly was Nino Tempo?
Nino Tempo was a great horn player. In fact, he just died in his 90s. We were friends until the very end of his life, and beautiful guy. He was Phil Spector's roommate in college.
Oh, wow.
So, but he was a great musician. And uh, when Phil Spector was producing me, uh, I got a little perturbed one day. You know, you could push me so far, and then I got to confront you. You know what I'm saying? I'm from the Bronx.
Yeah, yeah.
So I went to confront Phil Spector, and Nino Tempo called me over. He said, "Come over here." He said, "I see where you're at." He said, "If you want to talk to Phil, don't challenge him in the control room because Bruce Springsteen is there. You got Jack Nicholson, you got Cher, you got Greg Allman in there, you got Stevie Van Zandt in there. Don't confront him in there because you're going to lose. He can't handle that if you want to confront. Don't do it in the control room. Call him outside, get him in a small room across the way. There's some small offices. Talk to him privately. So now, like I told you before, I didn't know how to look. I knew how to punch people in the face and I knew how to run. I knew how to talk about people, but I did not know how to look somebody in the eye and talk about what was bothering. I just didn't know how to do it. I had no idea how to do that. And he told me how to do it. So I took Phil Spector and I said, "Come, Phil." And he didn't want to come outside the control room.
Right. Because
I
that's where
said,
he's king.
"Yeah." I said, "You got to come out. I'm not going back in there and singing and until you come out. I got to talk to you."
Yeah.
I had a struggle. He came out and I got him in an office and I looked at him and I said, "Phil, this is Dion here. I love you. You're my friend. I want to be treated like I treat you. I got to walk out of here with my balls for me, not for anybody. I don't care about anybody else." I'm like, and he cooled right down and we were alone. And, he wanted to help and he just got, ever since that day, I talked to him in that little office and I told him, I'm here to make a record. I'm not nothing else. I love working with him. We all love you, Phil. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
You all you gave us so much. That's why Bruce wants to. We grew up with your stuff. We just that's why we're here. We respect you, man. And I was good to him. I didn't put him down. I didn't make any ultimatums. I didn't do anything like that. I just talked to him like a man. And that was the day I say Nino Tempo got me over the fear of people, especially talking to men. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. One other artist on the list I'm not familiar with, Buddy Lucas,
Buddy Lucas played,
sax player.
yeah, another sax player. You picked the two greatest sax players. Buddy Lucas played the solo on The Wanderer.
Oh,
And
wow. Okay.
oh, he was he was a very spiritual guy.
All right. Well, that ties in,
Yeah,
you
he
know.
he taught me a lot. Thank you for mentioning him. You know, I have a play it's called The Wanderer, and they're doing a
Yeah.
reading actually this month in January. And Buddy Lucas, I, you can't put every character you've ever been inspired by in the play. So a lot of it is under one. we have a character in the play, which is a real guy, Willie Green, who was a janitor. But there's a lot of stories that we kind of combine and just put them with Willie.
Yeah.
And Buddy Lucas is right there with Willie Green. You know, a lot of the stuff I learned because he had overcome drink and drugs, and he was real. He didn't try to get over on people, manipulate people, coerce people. You know, he just was a very real guy with a lot of love and consideration. And he was one of the most considerate guys I've ever met. And he taught me so much in the sessions I did with him. And I love the man and I miss him.
And those sessions that you did with him, do they for I mean, did you go back and use him over the years, or was that
Oh yeah,
primarily yeah, okay.
played on Runaround Sue.
Right.
Yeah, he was my guy. You know, and in fact, I think Bruce, you know, kind of picked up on that. That Big Buddy Lucas was, you know, how do you have a rock and roll band without a sax player?
I agree. I agree. That's like the missing link, between like rock stuff and R&B, jump blues. You're gonna mixing all that in. I love a
You picked
so.
out of all those guys, you picked the two sax players. That's crazy.
Well, a lot of the others, are very, very, very famous and well known. I mean, you start off the list, I think, like with Hank Williams, and there's Fast Domino, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Bo Diddley, Jerry Lee Lewis, Bobby Darin, Bob Dylan, Big Joe Turner. Those are names I think most people are familiar with, but Nino Tempo not so much, and Buddy Lucas not so much. So we
Right,
got to
right.
give some air to those guys. So the companion album, Rock and Roll Philosopher companion album, you're drawn from tunes that you featured in the audio book. So, and our coolest song in the world this week, want us to talk about it's "In a Heartbeat of Time," and that's one that you wrote with the late Scott Kempner. Is that right?
I did. Yeah.
And so, what is? I mean, we know here in the Underground Garage, we know Scott primarily as being a member of the Dictators, and also, being the main guy in the Del Lords. How did you meet Scott? How did your orbits come together? I know there's something about you guys had a band together, the Little Kings.
Yeah,
What's
yeah, yeah.
what's the story with you and Scott?
Oh man, first of all, I miss him
Yeah,
much. He was just the quintessential rock and roller who flew under the radar in a lot of ways.
yeah.
He was brilliant arranger, and he was wonderful with lyrics and just concepts, you know. And man, when he played guitar, he was all out. You know, it was just no holds barred. You know, he was just free abandon. He dug in, man. It was like he, he was rock and roll. You know, he was rock and roll. But somebody had given me a tape of Scott Kempner, and it was in my trunk for about 5 years.
Oh,
It was a cassette tape.
yeah.
And one day I said, what's this tape doing? I threw it in the machine, you know, at the time. It was like the early 90s. And a song called You Move Me came on. And I thought, man, this thing rocks. You know, who is this? And I looked, I read a little, you know, the copy that was on the cassette, found out it was Scott Kempner. I made some calls. I said, hey, let's meet. He lived in the East Village. Uh, Drove downtown. We went out for some pizza whatever, you know, and man, we got along so well. We just started a band. I said, we have to write. We have to do something. So
And that was the Little Kings.
that was Dion and Little Kings.
Okay,
And
okay.
we wrote maybe about 20 songs. I had a little apartment uptown across from Stevie. Stevie Van Zandt lived on 57th Street. I lived across the street at the Colonnade. And Scott and I wrote about 20 songs right there.
Wow.
And we went out on the road with Frank Fernero and Mike Maceras, and we we rocked. We had this just it was like a half a year we did this,
Yeah.
and Rich Neeson came into the Mercury Lounge. That was our last gig
Yeah.
on Houston Street with a little tape recorder set up. I think it was 5 tracks, and he recorded us. And we have an album called Dion Little Kings in New York live.
And
So
that is that cut off of it?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
so
All right.
this is like mid '90s,
Right. Okay.
and I had put the song in the order, somewhat in the Audible book, and I, like I said, this album is a companion to the book,
Yeah.
and so I picked the songs that would best represent the book and some of the stories, and some of the songs are songs that really never that maybe my fans have never heard. Like,
Yeah.
they've just kind of been buried somewhere.
Yeah.
This is one of them. I mean, I love that whole album, but in a heartbeat of time, reminds me so much of that period. Scott and I used to hang out on the streets and watch the beautiful girls go by, and this one beautiful girl, we said, man, and we started writing about this something about it, in our imaginations, and the whole song is about this girl, and
Well, you mentioned him writing the lyrics, and the lyric that I really love in there is what did I got the quote here? Oh, what you lost in a dream, you'll find in a heartbeat of time. Did you write that, or did he come up with that line?
I don't
You know?
remember if
Yeah.
who wrote what, but let's get Scott was like I said, he was incredible with lyrics. He wrote some great stuff, and he probably wrote it. Uh, don't you know? I tell you, he had such a gift for arranging and
Yeah.
lyrics.
Yeah.
That was and the way he played guitar with great abandon, free abandon. Uh, I don't know, it's just a touch. It's like Mark Knopfler has a touch, Clapton has a touch, or you could hear it. And Scott was one of those guys. I could hear the way he plays. He just was very forceful. That's a ballad, but he played very forceful.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned earlier this you incorporate this Tom Waits tune. I guess his version of the song is San Diego Serenade, and on the album you have it as Serenade Come to the Cross. What was the impetus to take his tune and sort of work with it?
Well, that's a great song. Basically it says sometimes you don't know what you have until it's gone. You
Right.
miss and you go, wow, I had this beauty, and I didn't recognize it. If I only recognized it, while it was happening. I love that song. It has great lyrics. And I wrote a song called "Come to the Cross" that was uh, about a great mystery, and the bridge in it works so well with Tom Waits' song that I had to throw it in. And I love doing that song. I go to this church down here on where I live, and I don't know where Emin's from, but this young violinist is in the church. This guy's great. I
Hmm.
told him to come over and play on it, and he did. I'm telling you, this kid could play. He make you cry. He
Oh.
can make you cry when he plays.
Now, does Tom know that you did his tune?
I don't know. Do you have his number? I'll call him.
I'll work on him after we hang up here.
Tell him to listen to that version. I think he'll like it.
I know he's going to like it. While I was listening to your re-recording of King of the New York Streets, and I went back and then I listened to the version from what is it? It's off Yo Frankie. Is that
Yeah.
what it's on? Yeah. And man, I just the newer one has just got more of a little bit more gritty, a little more edge to it. I
Well, it's
especially
live. It's that's Little Kings. That's
yeah,
Scott Kempner playing.
yeah, man, it's great. And also your vocals are just there's a bit more of a raspy edge to it. Yeah, so it's of course it's
Yeah,
live.
we were live at the Mercury Lounge. You get you know the way it is when you're in a club and people are right on top. You just
Yeah.
get motivated. You know, you just want to reach people in a more direct way. You know, and yeah, I agree with you. It's more about what the song is about. You know.
I love the way you're trying to reach people. I mean, that ties to your philosophy, right? Taking people on a journey.
You know, Manfred, I, when I was 11 years old, 10 years old, I heard Hank Williams. And then
Yeah.
a little after that, I heard Jimmy Reed. And man, it changed my life. It just, you know, my parents were always arguing. My father never had a real job. It was pretty brutal in my house. And I heard these guys on radio and I started collecting these records. I got a guitar and it took me into a place of enchantment. Uh, it transcended all the arguments. It, um, like I call it a higher reality.
Hmm.
Took me to another place, and my whole life, I've never really changed. My whole life has been trying to write a song and create a song in the studio to transmit that feeling that I felt when I was 11 years old to you and to others. You know, I wanted, so I've been trying to do that all my life, you know, and I kid you not, I kid you not, this actually happened. I was at Joe's Pub one night with my guitar, and I got,
Where's Joe's Pub? Where's
oh, it's right in Manhattan, but I
okay,
don't know if it's still around. But uh, there was a club. I don't
okay.
know if it still exists. I really don't. I was I was doing this set, and
Hmm.
during the set, I was telling this story. How Jimmy Reed, how I wanted to roll like Jimmy Reed. I wanted to communicate like Hank Williams, and I wanted to take people to a place of enchantment like they took me when I was 11
Hmm.
years old. And Kid Leo, who was a disc jockey, and his son come backstage, and his son was 19 years old, and he says to me, Dion, you know that story you told about Hank Williams and Jimmy Reed? How they moved you? How they did something to your insides? He says, you do for me what they did for you.
All right. Wow.
And I thought, okay, I could die now. You
You
know,
mentioned for a second ago you mentioned your parents and their sort of relationship and your dad and your mom and I know in the book you talk about get these honorary degrees and you mentioned that no one in your family had gone to college, yet your father seemed to be very well versed in arts, especially like painters, and he impressed that upon you. You have a love of different painters. What accounted for that? What had your dad so attuned to the arts and
well, he wasn't like a father. I don't know what he was, but he was a marionette, a manipulator of puppets.
but really, I mean, he did. Saw a picture. Maybe there's a picture in the book of him with a puppet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he really
Well,
did.
what I'm saying is
Yeah,
that he wasn't like a father figure, but
yeah,
he had great qualities. He
yeah.
was artistic. He was athletic. He could walk on the edge of the rooftops, on his hands. And he could sculpt and he could paint and he used to take me down to the museums, whether it was the Museum of Modern Art or natural history. And he would, as a youngster, he would put me on his shoulders and, take me through this. I remember I was in my young teens, just had turned a teenager, and we went to the Museum of Modern Art, and he was showing me Salvatore Dali, how Salvatore Dali is like a draftsman, and Van Gogh is like an expressionist. Can't
Yeah.
wait to get the paint out of the tubes. He actually puts the paint on the canvas right with the tubes. He didn't even put it on the brush. So, we bought these art books, which I still have. They're huge art books. They were on sale. We bought about six of them. Renoir, Cézanne, Monet, Picasso, Van Gogh, uh, these different, Modigliani. They we so I always grew up, reading these books and looking at the paintings, the photos of the paintings, and I always identified with expressionists. I
Yeah.
consider myself an expressionist. Like if you listen to Gangster of Love, you could hear that every syllable I comes out of my mouth lands in the right place. I just do it naturally. I don't know what it is, but I kind of inhabit the character that's singing the song.
Right.
And uh, Billy Gibbons told me that. He said, Dion, said, I don't believe how you don't do anything wrong. Everything is right in the right place. It just not, and he said, I don't mean perfection. I just mean rhythmically and expression wise, it's just perfect.
Well, now
So,
that's the opening track to the album,
right.
Rock and Roll Philosopher, right? And then we're going to
And I
go.
wrote that. I got to tell you
Yeah,
the story behind that. This is
do.
great. Yeah, I grew up to, Humphrey Bogart and Jimmy Cagney and,
Right.
Edward G. Robinson, playing all these gangsters, Al Capone and
Yeah.
Lucky Luciano and, these guys. And uh, I, I, I've always loved the satire behind the Wanderer, like,
Right.
I'm the type of guy that likes to roam around. I'm a man. The muddy waters kind of thing. Hoochie coochie man.
Right.
I can make love to 1,000 women in five. Just this kind of over the top bragging rights songs.
Right.
I
Right.
just love them. I fell in love, and every album I make, there's got to be one of these songs on it. And Gangster of Love, King of the New York Streets is one of them.
Yeah.
Uh, The Wanderer and Gangster of Love is falls into that category. I'm your gangster of love.
Well, that's a great one. We're gonna go out with another track off the album. I'm gonna ask you about this cut in a moment. But you had mentioned the your stage show, the Wanderer, and what is the status of that now? Where is it? Is it being currently performed? Is it going to go head out to the Great White Way? What's the plan with the
Well,
Wanderer?
Stevie Van Zandt and Maureen joined the production team.
Hmm.
So I'm going to be up in New York next week. I don't know. This is they're doing a reading for the theater owners and hoping that the next step is the Great White Way. The Broadway.
Cool.
We get a theater. Uh, so everything is done. The music, the
Yeah.
scenery, everything. It's complete. There's nothing that has to be done. We have the cast, everything, and Stevie and I loved working on it. So he's amazing, man. He's got great concentration and insight, and I just he did a lot of the music coordinating, and
Yeah.
segueing, making sure that everything we did like had to do with pushing the story forward
Right.
an inch or a mile, however he did. But he's great to work with. So yeah, hopefully Broadway next step.
That sounds good. All right, so take a listen to one more cut off of the Rock and Roll Philosopher. I'd like us to hear New York Minute. I mean, it's, reminiscent of that late 50s, early 60s kind of material you were doing back in the day. How recent is it? Did you write it a long time ago, or is it more of a recent
No,
composition?
I just wrote it recently. I
Oh,
just,
cool.
you know, just to kind of get a taste of, uh, what I grew up with in a way, like
Yeah.
kind of a look back. But I love I love it. I think the lyrics are just a lot of fun singing. I love the way words come out of my mouth. If they're with the vowels. You're enjoying it when it just rolls out of you.
Well, it sounded like it came quick. Was the song a quick one, or did it take a lot of finessing?
Uh, Not too much. No, it's
Yeah.
like those songs come pretty quick to me.
Yeah.
You
In
know,
the lyrics, you got talking about she's got green eyes. So what color are Susan's eyes?
green.
How about that? How
Yeah,
about that?
yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I love this girl more today than I did when I first met her, and that was a while
And
ago.
what is the phrase you use in the book? You mentioned it's like driving you sane. She's been driving you sane for how
Yeah,
long?
my wife drives me sane.
Man, Dion, thank you so much for making this such a very, very special Coolest Conversations.
Thank you. Great to be with you.